Here's your practice test. Number 1, find the real. So since it says real, you know you're not going to have any i's in this equation. Find the real solutions of the equation. Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. So remember, what we're going to do here is we're going to take and divide by 12 first. So if I take 78 and I'll divide it by 12, 78 and divide it by 12, I'll get then that x raised to the 4th power is equal to 6.5. So now, remember, since it's to an even power, we know when we take the 4th root, because remember, how do I get rid of a 4th power? I take the 4th root. I'm going to have to put a plus or minus in front of it. So we're going to take the plus or minus 4th root of 6.5, and you plug that in, ladies and gentlemen, you'll get 1.59672. Now I just did all of that because it said to the nearest hundredth. So remember, the nearest hundredth is 2 decimal places. So we'll look here at the 6, because here's our 2 decimal places is at the 9. So we look at the one before, that's going to make that become a 0. That's going to make that become a 6. So we are going to say our answer is plus or minus 1.60. I'm pretty sure if you just put 1.6, I'll give it 10. All right, number 2, evaluate the expression without using a calculator. So remember, if I have a negative, remember all I have to do is move it to the bottom. So I'll have 1 over 125 raised to the 2/3 power. So it just made it a fraction. Remember, if it was negative on the bottom, we'd move it up to the top. And now you have to kind of decide, do you want to go and say 125, the cubed root of that, and square it, or do you want to put the square inside? Either way, all right, I know that the 3rd root of 125 is 5, so I'll get 1 over 5 squared. So I know on that one I'll get 1 over 25. So I would guess, ladies and gentlemen, if I get a decimal answer from you, I would know that you used your calculator and not not using your brain. You used your calculator. All right, so use the properties of radicals to simplify the expression. So remember, on ones like this, if they both have a 6, the first thing I would try would be I would take the 6th root of 320 divided by 5. Because remember, if they're apart, I can bring them back together. And the 320 divided by 5 gives us 64. And then the 6th root of 64 is actually 2. And again, after a while, ladies and gentlemen, you'll start recognizing some of these. Okay. So on our next one here, it says write the expression in simplest form. You have 3 divided by 2 minus root 7. So remember, when you have 3 over 2 minus the square root of 7, you're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate of 2 minus root 7, which would be 2 plus root 7. Okay, so once we do that, and that's, a 7 there, not a 2. And once I do that, on the top, I'll have 3 times 2 plus the square root of 7. And on the bottom, remember, it's going to become a difference of squares. So 2 times 2 is 4. The square root of 7 times the square root of 7 is just going to be 7. So then you're going to get 3 over 2 plus the square root of 7 divided by negative 3. Well, then that just gives us the negative. Then I did it again, didn't I? So we have that negative. We just have to distribute that through the parentheses. So I'll get negative 2 minus root 7. And that will be my answer for that one. Okay, example 5, write the expression in simplest form. Assume all variables are positive. So that's nice because that means then we don't have to use the absolute value symbol anywhere. All right, so now kind of break it up here. All right, so you know that the fourth root of 48, okay, I know that you're going to have to try to find something where you can break that down. Well, I can do 16 times the square root of 3, which will give me the fourth root of 16 times the fourth root of 3. And again, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So the fourth root of 16 is 2. So on that one right there, we're going to have 2 root for the fourth root of 3. All right. Now, on the other ones, kind of use it however you want. Remember, I have a 4 here. If that one is smaller than the one inside, then we're going to have something left over. If it's the same, well, the fourth root of 4 goes away. And an easy way to see that is if I wrote it as a fraction, I'd get 4 over 4, which would give us a. So look how I'm kind of breaking it up here. All right. So then if I had b to the fifth, and if I had the fourth root of that, I'll kind of think the same kind of thing. I can write this as b raised to the 5/4. Since the bottom is smaller than the top, I know that I can rewrite this as b raised to the 4/4 power plus b raised to the 1/4 power. Okay, so if I do that, then I can write that as b. Well, actually, let me write it better for you. We should write it like this. Let's just use 1b there. All right. So, I mean, what I did wasn't wrong, but again, on this here, if I look at this, then I know I have just b, and then this one here will give me b to the fourth root. All right, because it's 1/4. Okay. And then finally, c, we have, if I write it as a fraction, I'll have 8/4. Well, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So I can write that one as c squared. So now what you need to do is you need to take everything that is not under the radical and put it together. So we can see we have a 2 there. We have an a. We have a b here. And we have c squared. And then whatever else is underneath the fourth root radical, we're going to put those together. And as you can see, I have that and that. So I'm going to say it's just 3b. So the fourth root of 3b. And there's your answer for that one. Okay. Number 6, simplify the expression. So what you have to do is you have to see, can you simplify this one here? All right. And you'll say, well, 2 times the square root of 8, I can write that as 2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. You know that's the square root of 4 is 2. So now I'll have 4 root 2. So now I'll have 6 root 2 plus 4 root 2. Now I can just add them. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So you'll get 10 root 2. Okay. Now, on this one here, we've done transformations a lot now, ladies and gentlemen. We should start getting to recognize them. If not, remember, your book likes to start with an H, so it's a vertical stretch by a factor of 3. Remember, if it's vertical, it's going to be on the outside. So, like I said, your book likes to use h of x, and they like to say that's 3 times f of x. So if it's 3 times f of x, we're going to take 3 times 2 to the square root of x minus 1. Now we're going to distribute that 3 through the parentheses. So I'll get 3, I'll get 6, square root of x minus 3. Now that's just for the first part. Then the second part, it says followed, so that tells me I'm doing 2 things, followed by a translation 2 units left. So remember, left and right, I keep going inside x, outside y. Left and right, it attaches itself to the x. So we're going to say, we're going to take our h, we're going to have x, and we're going to add 2 to it. So wherever we see x in h of x, we're going to replace it with x plus 2 minus 3. And there's your answer. Because remember, it's x minus h, well, minus a negative 2, because we're going 2 units to the left. Okay? So that is our final answer. And again, we should be getting good at these, ladies and gentlemen. All right? Okay, the next one is solve 2 square root of x plus 3 is less than or equal to 8. So remember, on this one here, I had you do steps. So step 1, I want you to solve. So we would have x plus 3 is less than or equal to, again, we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. So we'll get is less than or equal to 4. Now, how do I get rid of a square root? I will square both sides. And then that will give me x plus 3 is less than or equal to 4 squared is 16. All right? And then finally, I'm going to subtract 3, and I'll get that x is less than or equal to 16. So if you notice, though, they're telling us it's going to be that one right there, x is less than or equal to 16. So remember, our step 2 was consider the radicand. And remember, that can't be negative. So what we do is we just solve for what's underneath. All right? So we're going to take our x plus 3. And remember, it can't be negative. So we know it has to be greater than or equal to 0. It can equal 0 because the square root of 0 is 0. So if we solve that, we'll get x is greater than or equal to negative 3. All right. So remember, I told you as we go through this, we can write this. If I looked at just this part right here and I read it backwards, I would have x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So you're just going to put your negative 3 right there. And there's your answer for that one. Now this one, I was amazed that the couple of people who turned in their test already. This is just a simple plug and chug problem. So the speed s in miles per hour of a car driving on dry asphalt can be given by s is equal to 4.74 times the square root of d, where d is the stopping distance in feet. What is the approximate stopping distance of a car traveling 55 miles per hour? So that is the speed of the car, ladies and gentlemen. So now what we're going to be saying here is 4.74 times the square root of d is equal to 55. Now I have to get d by itself, so the square root of d is equal to 55 divided by 4.74. And you can plug that in your calculator if you want, or you can always wait until the end. Again, how do I get rid of a square root? I would square both sides. So if I square both sides, I'll get that D is equal to 555 divided by 4.74 squared. And when I plug that in, I'll get 134.638 was the whole thing I got. So I just wanted to show you all that because it says to the nearest hundredth. So remember, if it's to the nearest hundredth, that would be this one right here. So I have to look at the one on the other side of it. So that would be this one right here. And we know that that will equal, rounding up, so 134.64 feet. Okay. On number 10, this is just what we just did with the last section. Find the inverse of f of x is equal to x cubed minus 5. So remember, step 1, you're going to replace f of x with y. So you get x cubed minus 5. Step 2, remember you're going to replace the x and the y. You're going to exchange them. And now you're going to solve for your new y. So I'm going to add that 5, so I'll get y cubed is equal to x plus 5. Now again, how do you get rid of a cube? Well, you cube root both sides. All right. So if we do that, then we'll get y is equal to the cubed root of x plus 5. Okay. Number 11. Now this was the very, like one of the very first problems that we did in the section, in the whole chapter. So it says, select the indicated real nth roots of a. So again, we're talking about the nth root. Remember, we're going to be saying this root here, and then our a is going to be here. So we're actually taking the cubed root of 64. And remember, since it's positive here, we don't need to, since we have a odd here, we don't have to worry about anything else but just solving it. So if you plug that in your calculator or start thinking, 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 is 64. So the cubed root of 64 is just going to be 4. So that is going to be your answer. Okay. Almost done. This one, we just did one just like it on the at the very beginning. So remember, I have that negative there. So I'm going to automatically go 1 over 243 to the positive 3/5 power. Okay. Now remember, I kind of was showing you this earlier. I didn't state it too much, but remember, you can either write this as the 5th root of 243 cubed, or you can write it as the 5th root of 243 and then do the cubed here. All right. I find that this one here is usually the easiest one. All right. And I know that the 5th root of 243 is 3. So I'll have 3, and then I have the cubed on the top there. So that'll be 27. So remember, that's now underneath here. So we're going to have 1 over 27. And that is your answer. Okay. Now, looks like we're doing the same thing on this one here. All right, so now you have 4 minus the square root of 5. So remember, to get rid of that, we have to multiply the top and the bottom by its conjugate, which would be a positive 5. So we'll have 4 plus root 5, 4 plus root 5. Okay, and then on the top, well, that's going to be 2 times 4 plus the square root of 5 at the beginning. And remember, now it's a difference of squares. So 4 times 4 is 16, and the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, which is the square root of 25, or just 5. Okay, so now we have 2 times 4 plus the square root of 5 over 11. And since I can't simplify that fraction there, I'm just going to have to distribute that through the parentheses on top. So I'll get 8 plus 2 root 5 over 11. And that is your answer for that one. Okay. 14, which expression represents 2a to the raised to 3 halves b divided by 8 times a raised to the 7 halves times b raised to the 1/2 power in simplest form. So remember, on this here, I'm going to first look at the fraction. All right, so I have 2 over 8. Can I reduce that? And you would say, of course, you can. So that would be 1/4. Well, I'm just going to put the 4 there. The 1 is understood to be on top there. And then remember, after that, we're going to remember when the bases are the same and I am dividing, I subtract the exponents. So on that one there, we're going to take a to the 3 halves minus 7 halves, which will give us a to the negative 3 minus 7 is negative 4 halves, or a raised to the negative 2 power. But remember, then I can just write that as 1 over a squared. Remember, we don't really like having negative exponents. So that one there would now go underneath also. And let's see, so our last one here is our b. Let's see what's going to happen with that. So if I do the b's, I have b to the 1 minus 1/2. Okay, when the bases are the same, I can subtract the exponents. But now remember, that's going to be b raised to the 2 over 2 minus 1/2. And 2 halves minus 1/2 is 1/2. And since that is positive, it was positive on top, so we're going to leave that up there. And that would make our b to the 1/2, sorry. I had that correct, so that would make it be this one here. All right, and then our last one, again, let's start thinking. I keep saying we've done these because we've done these. Okay, let the graph of G be a reflection in the y-axis, followed by a translation 5 units down. Up and down, that's going to be outside. And remember, when it's a reflection in the x-axis, I told you we're going to write that as h of x is equal to f of negative x. If it was in the x-axis, the negative would be outside. But since it's on the inside, we're going to write, now wherever we see x, we are now replacing it with negative x. So that's our h of x. And now our g of x, again, is going to be our h of x plus our k, because again, it's going up or down. So it's not being attached to the x. So then we're just going to take our h of x, which was 3 times the 4th root of negative x. And then 5 units down would make it negative. And let me make that 3 in front be just a little bigger. And there's your answer for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can do this. You can have a good grade. Watch this. Do exactly the same thing. All right? Good luck to you. Thank you.